Picture this. You're sitting in a car dealership. The salesperson slides a piece of paper across the desk. New car, great features, that smell, that feeling, and right there in the middle of the page, $847 per month. You do the quick mental math. That's like $28 a day, less than $1 an hour for a brand new car. That actually doesn't sound that bad. And that's exactly what they want you to think. Because what the dealership just did in that one quiet moment is one of the most psychologically sophisticated financial maneuvers ever designed for the average consumer. They didn't sell you a car. They sold you a number small enough not to frighten you. And buried inside that number is a decision that will quietly drain somewhere between $150,000 and $300,000 from your lifetime wealth. Not from one car, from the pattern that car starts. In 2026, the average new car payment in the United States has crossed $800 a month. Loan terms stretching to 84 months, that's 7 years, are now completely normal. And millions of people are signing these contracts every single month, fully convinced they're making a responsible adult decision. This video is about why that belief is one of the most expensive mistakes a person in their 20s or 30s can make. And more importantly, it's about the psychological trick at the center of it all. Because once you see it, you can never unsee it. Let's talk about what most people actually believe about car payments. The dominant mindset, the one that's been quietly normalized over the past 2 decades, goes something like this. A car payment is just a part of life. Everyone has one. You need reliable transportation, and if you're going to have a payment anyway, you might as well get something nice, something safe, something you actually enjoy driving. This belief sounds rational. It even sounds responsible. And car manufacturers, dealerships, and lenders have spent billions of dollars making sure it sounds exactly that way. Here's the subtle lie inside it. The statement, everyone has a car payment, is technically true for a large portion of the population. But it's true the same way everyone carries credit card debt is true. Not because it's financially smart, but because an entire industry is built around making it feel unavoidable. And here's what nobody tells you in the dealership. A car payment isn't just a monthly expense. It's a recurring decision to keep wealth out of your hands and inside the financial system of someone else. Every month that $847 leaves your account, it doesn't just pay for your car. It pays for the dealership's profit margin, the lender's interest income, the depreciation you're absorbing, and the insurance premium that goes up the moment you drive a more expensive vehicle. It's not one cost, it's a cost cluster. And most people only ever see the one number on the paper, and that number is the whole trick. There's a concept in behavioral psychology called payment decoupling. It describes what happens to our decision-making when the moment of payment is separated from the moment of enjoyment. Think about a subscription service. You sign up once, the payment runs automatically every month, and you never consciously choose to pay again. The enjoyment and the payment become completely disconnected. This is why people keep subscriptions they barely use, because the pain of paying has been engineered away. Car payments work the same way, but on a much larger financial scale. When a dealership quotes you a monthly payment instead of a total price, they are deliberately triggering payment decoupling in your brain. You stop thinking about the full cost of the vehicle. You start thinking about whether $847 fits into your monthly life. And for most people earning a decent income, $847 feels manageable. It feels like a reasonable exchange for something as tangible and necessary as a car. But let's look at what $847 a month actually means over a full loan term. At 84 months, 7 years, that's $71,148 in total payments, before interest. Now add a typical 2026 interest rate on an auto loan, somewhere between 7 and 9% for buyers with decent credit. Suddenly, the true cost of that vehicle is closer to $85,000 to $90,000 for a car that, statistically, will be worth less than half that by the time you finish paying for it. You paid $87,000 for something worth $30,000, and you made that deal feel reasonable by spreading it into monthly slices thin enough to swallow. But here's where it gets genuinely alarming. Most people don't just buy one car this way. They buy a car, pay it for 5 to 7 years, and then, right around the time they're approaching the end of the loan, they trade it in and start over.
New car, new loan, new payment. The cycle resets. Over a 40-year driving lifetime, a person who follows this pattern will spend somewhere between $500,000 and $700,000 on vehicles. And because these payments come out of income that could have been invested, the real cost, the opportunity cost, is even higher. Let's make that concrete. Take that $847 monthly payment. Instead of sending it to a lender, imagine putting it into a basic index fund every single month, starting at age 25. At a historical average of 8% annually, by age 65, that money grows to approximately $2.8 million. Read that again. The car payment, just the car payment, given to an index fund instead of a lender, becomes $2.8 million over a working lifetime. That is the actual cost of the car culture most people have been normalized into. Not $847 a month, not even $71,000 over the loan, nearly $3 million in lost wealth. So why do intelligent, educated, financially conscious people keep walking into this trap? This is where the psychology gets fascinating. The first reason is something called relative thinking. The human brain is terrible at evaluating absolute numbers. It's brilliant at comparing things to a reference point. When a dealership shows you a $65,000 car and you flinch, they don't lower the price. They change the reference point. They move the conversation from the total cost to the monthly payment. Suddenly, the comparison isn't $65,000 versus what I have in my bank account. It's $847 versus what I spend on other monthly things. And framed that way, the car feels like it fits. This is the same psychological mechanism that makes people spend more when they pay with credit cards instead of cash. The reference point shifts, and the brain recalibrates its sense of what's expensive. The second reason is identity. Cars, more than almost any other purchase, are deeply tied to how people see themselves and how they want others to see them. A car is visible. It sits in the driveway. It pulls up to the office. It tells a story about you before you say a single word, and that story feels worth paying for. Psychologists call this signaling, spending money not just for the utility of a thing, but for the social message it sends. And car manufacturers have spent decades and billions of dollars associating their vehicles with success, freedom, intelligence, and attractiveness. When you buy a luxury car on credit, you're not just buying transportation, you're buying a feeling, a projected image, a version of yourself that feels more accomplished. And the brain is absolutely willing to pay a premium for that, especially when the payment is conveniently broken down into monthly pieces that never feel like the full price. The third, and perhaps most insidious reason, is normalization. When everyone around you has a car payment, having a car payment feels like the baseline. Not having one starts to feel unusual, even irresponsible. How do you get a reliable car without financing it? It's a question people ask completely genuinely because the idea of another path has been so thoroughly erased from their financial imagination. But there is another path, and it has been quietly used by the same people who tend to build the most wealth.
Let's talk about what actually works. The financially intelligent approach to cars isn't about driving something old and embarrassing. It's about understanding one fundamental truth. A car is a tool, not an investment. It does not grow in value. It does not generate income. It depreciates, meaning it loses value from the moment it leaves the lot. And the faster and newer it is, the faster it loses value. Knowing that, the smartest car decision is the one that gets you reliable transportation at the lowest possible total cost, not the lowest possible monthly payment. Here's what that looks like in practice. The most financially powerful move is to buy a used car, 2 to 4 years old, with cash or a minimal short-term loan. A car that is 2 years old has already absorbed the steepest portion of its depreciation. The previous owner took the largest loss, so you don't have to. You get a modern, reliable, feature-rich vehicle at 50 to 60% of its original price. If you currently have a car payment and can't immediately get out of it, the next best move is to stop the cycle at the end of this loan. When the car is paid off, keep it. Drive it for another 3 to 4 years.
Take the payment you were making and redirect it into savings, into investments, into the next car fund so you can buy the following one in cash. This one decision, keeping a paid-off car instead of immediately trading up, is one of the highest return financial moves available to ordinary people. No special knowledge required, no market timing, no risk. Just patience and the willingness to let a car be a car instead of a status signal. And on the insurance side, once a car is paid off and owned outright, you can significantly reduce your coverage. Comprehensive and collision coverage, which protect the lender's asset as much as yours, can be dropped on an older owned vehicle, cutting your insurance bill by hundreds of dollars annually. That's another piece of the cost cluster quietly dissolving. The practical target for transportation costs, car payment plus insurance plus fuel plus maintenance, should be no more than 15% of your take-home income. If your car costs are above that, you are statistically much less likely to build meaningful wealth, regardless of how much you earn. Here's the uncomfortable reality underneath all of this. The $800 car payment isn't just a financial mistake. It's a symptom of a much deeper pattern. The pattern of using today's income to perform tomorrow's success, of buying the appearance of wealth before actually building it, of letting a monthly number feel small enough to justify a lifetime cost that is absolutely enormous. The dealership didn't trick you with math. They tricked you with psychology. They understood that your brain compares, not calculates, that your identity is tied to what you drive, that normal is whatever everyone around you is doing, and they built an entire system around those three facts. Now you see the system, and seeing it doesn't mean you can never buy a nice car. It means you buy it differently, later, smarter, with money you actually have, for a price you've actually counted, not a monthly payment designed to make you stop counting. There's a certain kind of person who drives a boring, paid-off car in their 30s and retires with more money than their neighbors who drove luxury vehicles their entire careers. They don't get credit for it in the moment. Nobody walks past a 5-year-old sedan and thinks that person is winning. But the scoreboard isn't in the driveway. It's in the account balance, in the options, in the freedom to make choices without a payment attached to every one of them. The car you drive says something about you. Make sure it's saying the right thing.